Well, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you today to talk about a topic that, if you read my LinkedIn profile, you'll see that I list myself not as a blockchain expert, but as a blockchain enthusiast. In all my years of dealing with technology, I was first introduced to blockchain about 2014, but I was so busy with semantic technology and working on a couple acquisitions, I let it alone. Then in June of this year, a good friend of mine, colleague of mine, Carlos Fernandez, said, hey, I got a great idea about advertising. And that idea has to do, how do you fulfill advertising contracts? And we can use blockchain. I said, Carlos, I don't know anything about blockchain. So I called one of my experts, a gentleman by the name of Carlos Sanchez, who lives in Maplewood, who's an entrepreneur, who's been doing presentations in Dubai for the last 3 years on blockchain. We got on a phone call with him Saturday morning, a couple hours, and we said, we want to interact with you. So a week later, I'm talking to one of my clients, a company called My Science Work out of Paris. We're going to the marketplace to do an equity raise, about $15 million for them. And I have a former investor, Calexis, that I contacted with, and his name is Mark Germain. He's at the A&T group. And Mark says, we won't look at you only if you're using blockchain. And I just said to Virginie, who's French, I said, Virginie, we got to jump into blockchain. So I dived in. I mean, I really dived in. Took what I read over those next 2 weeks and created a whole new infrastructure for this company called My Science Work. It's phenomenal stuff. So that's why I say I'm a blockchain enthusiast. This fall, I'm going to attend the MIT, and I encourage you, if you really want to dive in, MIT has a certificate program, 6 weeks online. They got a superior staff. I'm signed up for it. And so after that, I think I can say that I'll be at the beginner level for that. What I hope to do today is to give you some key principles and things to think about. If you were to ask me, how does blockchain apply to your particular industry, your particular company, I bet, I'm 90% sure I can tell you how blockchain is going to help that. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I started in the information business selling TV guides in Atlantic City, New Jersey. I had a route, had 4 customers. I was 4 years old. My mother would stand out on a corner grocery store there and watch me deliver to these 4 places. Then I started selling the Philadelphia Bulletin. The Philadelphia Bulletin doesn't exist anymore, but I chose the Philadelphia Bulletin over the Atlantic City Press because it was a much better newspaper. So the importance of information stuck with me as a young boy, and then of course started at Xerox, and I saw something called the Xerox Star System. How many of you heard of the Xerox Star System? Aha! And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in the talk. So I think that it's important to know that the blockchain is so important to the semantic web. How many of you have heard the phrase the semantic web? Okay, a couple folks. Great. So Tim Berners-Lee, that name sound familiar? Okay. People think Al Gore founded the internet? No. Tim Berners-Lee, actually what he did, there were some folks before him, because the internet started as a military protocol back in I think the late 60s. And then some people built some protocols on top of it which would help people to communicate more. And what Tim Berners-Lee did in the 80s was to be able to create a language by the lay folks like us could communicate with each other. Well, you know, now he's Sir Tim Berners-Lee. How much do you think he gets paid to do a speaking engagement? Please, someone take a guess for me.
$100,000.
You know what? $66,000, $66,400 and whatever dollars in some sense. He's represented by the Walker organization, and for my client, the International Association of STM Publishers, I needed to have a dynamic speaker to open up for the STM Frankfurt conference. So I called the Walker agency to see how much it cost, and she said $66,400. I said, why can't it just be $67,000? She said, you know, I think it's the pound conversion. But this gentleman is, of course, very, very, very profound, But he had this idea of the semantic web. And the semantic web is being able to connect people, places, things, and content in context to each other. You see, right now, Google is ruling the world. And Google's business model wants you to click on more pages. What's going to happen as this web develops, the semantic web develops, people are going to get tired of search fatigue. And they're going to want someone to provide them with the right results in context right away. That's what semantic search is all about. Well, the semantic web connects all those things. So Tim Berners-Lee, he wrote about this. There's a lot of papers written about the semantic web, but this is where blockchain comes in. Blockchain comes in because it allows you to identify very specifically pieces of information, whether it's video, audio, textual, whatever the information is. You'll know when someone has clicked on your information. When you know that someone has clicked on your information, it gives you the power to charge them a fee. You get to understand what information they're searching, what information they're not searching. You're able to do analytics. So it has a whole lot of purpose and meaning to it. So when we think about the semantic web, the web is defined and linked in a way that it can be used by machines, not just for display purposes, but for automation and reuse of data across various applications. The semantic web is a web technology that lives on top of the existing web, including machine-readable information and files, without modifying the existing web structure. There are many doubters about blockchain due to the cryptocurrency craze. In any gold rush fever, there are those who will prey on the weak and the less informed. You're here today. So today is like, can I give you an example? There's 4 levels. I teach at Seton Hall to the MBA course, Professional Selling, and I talk to salespeople about the 4 levels of consciousness. There's the first levels where you're unconscious and competent, you don't know what you don't know. And then there's the second level where you're conscious and competent, where you recognize, I don't know this topic, so now I'm conscious about it, I'm learning. This is where we are today about blockchain, all of us. We're conscious about blockchain, we want to learn more about it. And then we get to a point where we're conscious competent, and then you get to what I call nirvana, which is where you're unconscious competent. So the fact that you're here today is that you're saying, you know what, I'm putting the stake in the ground, I'm going to open up my mind to understand about blockchain. So those who truly understand the technology and apply it in the most constructive and ethical manner will be the new captains of the different industries. This is a phenomenal opportunity that blockchain is providing us. It levels the playing field. In Professor Druma's 2016 book, he's from the Harvard Kennedy School, Innovation and Its Enemies, Why People Resist New Technologies, he covers 9 examples of new technologies that face opposition for a variety of reasons. Coffee, printing the Quran, margarine, farm mechanization, electricity, mechanical refrigeration, music recorded sound, transgenic crops, and aqua salmon. Imagine people being against electric streetlights. They weren't, believe it or not. Today we will explore blockchain and discuss why it's important for you to understand it. So again, we've done the introduction. We're going to talk about the blockchain. We're going to talk about the 5 W's of blockchain and H. I got some sample case studies and summation, and then I have some appendix information. And let me say that if you want to get a copy of these slides, just let me know, I'll send them to you. Also, any information that you want. A lot of this information, I want to give Wikipedia credit. I want to make sure that I highlight a lot of this information came from Wikipedia and other sources that I have. I always like to think about your time, you're investing your time, the 3 P's for the day. Purpose, process, and payoff. Because you're investing your time, which I really appreciated, Andrew and John and the whole Power Partners team appreciate. So our process, our purpose is that I want to provide you with a primer on blockchain. In the process, I'm going to give you some basic history, some definitions, some references, and hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll have at least a better understanding about what blockchain is and further direction that you should need to take from there. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Any questions thus far? So I like to talk about technology advances through the decades. And so I figured I've been very blessed and very fortunate that I've worked with some of the top companies in the world. I've launched some of the top products in the world. And that's something that I really like to discuss. But let's take a look at a few technologies of the decade. For me, it all started in Xerox in 1981 when I first walked into the Xerox demo room in Morris Plains, New Jersey. I was a new business rep for the business products division, selling copiers door to door, Linden, Huawei, Roselle, whatnot. I walked into the demo room and I saw this large monitor with these icons on it. Now this is July of 1981. And I said to my manager, I said, wow, this is really cool. What is this? And it's the Xerox Star system. We're working towards the paperless office. I said, wow, do I get to sell that? He said, no, you got to sell some copiers first. But what that did, I bought my first computer, which was a Xerox 820 computer on the Xerox employee pay, because Xerox didn't pay new people anything. So I was on a draw check at best. But I started playing around with the computer, but also I became very fascinated with the capabilities. And then my brother, who was much older, he worked at AT&T, he was starting a business, and then he borrowed my computer and I didn't see it again because he was using it for his account and all those other things. But what we see here is that Xerox back in 1981 was a powerhouse. And so from there, you go from electronic copiers, digital copiers, and then I was recruited over to Dow Jones. How many of you have heard of Dow Jones News Retrieval? Okay, it's now called Factiva. I was the first salesperson in Los Angeles on the street for Dow Jones News Retrieval in 1981. I was carrying around something called a Texas Instrument decoupler machine, where I could take a phone and plug the phone into the cups, dial up a service called TimeNet and Telenet. The Dow Jones News Retrieval had 70 plus different databases, including the Dow Jones News, on Dow Jones News Retrieval. I had the opportunity of actually demoing Dow Jones News Retrieval to Darrell Hilton in his Beverly Hills hotel office. I also had the opportunity of demonstrating the capital markets report to Michael Milken in Beverly Hills back in the days before he went off into his illegal activity. So from there, I got recruited over to Elsevier. Now this was 1996. The internet started in like 1990, 1991, and Elsevier was looking to move their journals from print to digital. So when I was interviewing, I was like, wait a minute, you guys aren't digital? Because Wall Street's been digital since '71. But that industry was lagging behind. So I moved from Dow Jones against my mother's wishes, because my mother was from the old school, hey, you grew up in the grocery store, you're with a Fortune 500 company, why are you leaving? But I said, Mom, this company is going to give me international exposure, I'm going to be responsible for the Americas, I'm going to build a big team. But most importantly, moving a marketplace from print to digital. There was actually a librarian in Utah in 1999 that told me the internet was going to go away and didn't want to do business with Elsevier. Well, guess what? She now works for Elsevier, which is funny. I always remind her of that statement. But we see this technology that people are resistant to change because they don't understand it. And so what we're trying to do today is to bring a more level of understanding about blockchain so that the better we understand something, the more that we'll embrace it. So then, after 11 years, I was at Elsevier for 11 years. My organization that sells 11 straight years. We had the best marketing department. John ran my exhibits department. We had the best customer service. But what happens in corporations, there's regime change, people come in, and so I was looking for my next thing, because I wanted something exciting. John Ragazzi, former Elsevier CEO in the Americas, had retired and was on this board of this company called Calexis. Calexis dealt with semantic technology. You might ask, well, what is semantic technology? Let me ask you this. How many times do you go to Google and you do a search, but you're not happy with the results on page 1 or page 2 or page 3? Happens a lot, right? Well, what semantic search does, it puts the search in context to your results in context to your search. So you get a spot-on result. You get a spot-on result. I saw this technology, called my wife. I was in Mexico at the time, attending a meeting for Elsevier. I said, sweetheart, I've just seen some technology that would blow your mind. My wife had worked with Dow Jones as well, training people how to do Dow Jones Institute. So this company had this exciting technology. They were running out of money, and they were recruiting me as their EVP CMO, and also to use me as the banner child to raise their next round. So I took the lead. I left Elsevier. I left a lot of options and all that good stuff, and went to Colexis, and we did raise the money in the next 3 weeks. And we went on to build a great business. And also I started competing against Elsevier, and I was beating my own former sales team in the marketplace. So Elsevier acquired us 3 years later. And so I did my executive transition, and then I also sold to AIP, this expert network, as well as a semantic search. And then I decided that I wanted to go on my own. And so now we look at gadget software. And let me ask you guys this question. How many of you read content on your mobile device? How many of you love to read a PDF on your mobile device? Well, Gadget Software has solved that problem. They're based here in Newark. They got awesome technology. I did a year assignment with them, but they have phenomenal technology. They have a mobile publishing platform. Watch out for them. Now, I'm working with this company out of France called My Science Work. My Science Work is a platform, it's a search platform. I know, a lot of search platforms out there, right? Let me ask you this question. How many of you know that there's a definitive search platform for all professional content? Can you name one? They're looking to become the iTunes of the professional information industry. And we're going to be using blockchain to facilitate this. So technology advances through the decades, and it's going to continue. So let's explore blockchain. So when you think about blockchain, it was originally called blockchain. It was 2 words. Now it's 1 word. It is a growing list of records called blocks, which are linked using cryptography. Blockchains are readable by the public, are widely used by cryptocurrencies. Private blockchains have been proposed for business use. Some marketing of blockchains have been called snake oil. Each block contains a cryptographic hash of the previous block, a timestamp, and transaction data by design. A blockchain is resistant to modification of the data. It is an open, distributed ledger that can record transactions between 2 parties efficiently and in a verifiable and permanent way. For use as a distributed ledger, blockchain is typically managed by a peer-to-peer network, collectively adhering to a set of protocol for inter-node communication, validating new blocks. Once recorded, the data in any given block cannot be altered retroactively without alteration of all subsequent blocks, which requires consensus of the network majority. Though blockchain records are not unalterable, blockchains may be considered secure by design and exemplify a distributed computing system with high Byzantine fault tolerance. That's a mouthful. Decentralized consensus has therefore been claimed with a blockchain. So again, when we think about, well, what is blockchain? Again, the blockchain is a decentralized, distributed, and public digital ledger that is used to record transactions across many computers so that the record cannot be altered retroactively without the alteration of all subsequent blocks and consensus of the network. This allows the participants to verify and audit transactions inexpensively. A blockchain database is managed autonomously using a peer-to-peer network and distributed time-stamping server. They are authenticated by mass collaboration powered by collective self-interest. You might ask, why is that important? Why do you think that this issue of authentication by mass collaboration and by collective self-interest, why is that important, do you think? So instead of putting power in one person's hands, the power is distributed across the network. And people can, if someone wants to change something, as I said, if you want to change something retroactively, everything has to be changed and everyone has to agree to it. The Professor Juma's book, he talks about the folks in Africa who couldn't go to the bank to do banking, but someone came up with a system for them to do the banking on their cell phone. 60 Minutes did a nice story, Leslie Stahl did a nice story on that, but blockchain enables that. And you might hear a lot of the Bill Gates or gentlemen from Berkshire Hathaway talk negatively about blockchain. Believe me, they're trying to figure it out. Once they figure it out, then they're going to be cool with it, you know. Anybody involved in scholarly publishing at all? So there's something called open access. Open access is where people can get access to scholarly publishers' information for free. And for years, the industry fought against it. Now the industry has figured out how to monetize it, and now Elsevier and all the publishers, oh yeah, open access, yeah, absolutely, because they realize that all of the foundations are sending their grant money to Elsevier and Nature. So, but moving on, the use of a blockchain removes the characteristic of infinite reproducibility from a digital asset. It confirms that each unit of value is transferred only once, solving the long-standing problem of double spending. Blockchains have been described as a value exchange protocol. The blockchain is based exchange of value can be completed quicker, safer, and cheaper than with traditional systems, the gentleman just spoke about. A blockchain can assign title rights because when properly set up, the detailed exchange agreement it provides a record that compels an offer and acceptance. So, who started blockchain? So, okay, Satoshi Nakamoto is the name used by the unknown person or people who developed Bitcoin. They authored the Bitcoin white paper, created and deployed Bitcoin's original reference implementation. As part of the implementation, they also devised the first blockchain database. In the process, they were the first to solve, of course, the double spending problem for a digital currency as well as for a peer-to-peer network. They were active in the development of Bitcoin up until December 2010. So when did blockchain actually start? Well, again, we believe that it was started in 2008 by this Satoshi Nakamoto group. And they wanted to, of course, to do it because they wanted to establish a cryptocurrency. So initially, when you think about where did blockchain start, well, we don't know. Because these folks, 1, 10, 15, however many of them, they were all over the world. So it's a distributed network. So it was created all over the world, you might say. When you think about why did blockchain start, you know, it started simply because folks wanted to have a better way to have a public translation ledger of the cryptocurrency Bitcoin. The invention of the blockchain for Bitcoin made it the first digital currency, again, to solve the double spending problem without the need of a trusted authority or central server. And of course, this Bitcoin digital design has inspired many other applications. So when you think about how blockchain is being used, there are many examples. There's so much information up on the web around this, and all of your top consulting firms, McKinsey, Bain, IBM, they have thousands of white papers about how blockchain is being used. So when you think about asset management and trade processing and settlement, insurance claim processing, payments, cross-border payments, smart property. How do you know that the coffee that you got from the Blue Mountains in Jamaica is actually the coffee that's that you bought for your shop? Did you see? Have many of you seen that IBM commercial that talks about this particular example, where they actually can trace the coffee beans from the time that it's picked and shipped from the warehouse and on the container ship, and then delivered to the various different distributors. And the Internet of Things. Now, does everybody understand what the Internet of Things are? Okay. This is where the semantic web comes in. Back in 1999, Reed Elsevier, which is now called RELIS, had an executive development course, and I was in class number 2 at Oxford University. And we were talking about the Internet of Things way back then. We had lecturers come in over those 2 weeks, and they talked about the smart refrigerator. Now, the smart refrigerator is now with us now. But they were talking about the smart refrigerator, whereas the refrigerator will know when your milk is either going to go bad or it's going to be empty. But that information, if you allow, and this is where privacy is very important for people to know that they have the right to say, yes, you can have my information, or no, you cannot have my information. But the Internet of Things is connecting people, places, and things, so that you'll have data about what's going on. Like, give you an example, if you're driving, like I keep my cars forever. I have a 2009 Volkswagen. It has 120,000 miles on it. And all of the cars have these computers. Imagine where that information about your car's performance at a particular speed in a particular weather environment is correlated with all other the 2009 Passat wagons around the world. They can predict when there's going to be an issue with the car, and then tell you, by the way, when this particular model gets to this particular number of miles and this particular degree, you may want to consider to make sure you have your antifreeze. But it allows us to be very smart about things versus when something breaks down. When I was working at Gadget Software, I had the opportunity of working with GE Aviation. And basically, what they were trying to figure out was when a plane lands and goes off the tarmac, they want to know exactly how that plane performed, because they may want to do some preventive maintenance, because their job is to keep that plane in the air and not in the hangar. Or if you think about, we just moved from South Orange, New Jersey to Amber, Pennsylvania, and no matter what those people who do those home inspections tell you, there's always something that happens. So the first week, a couple of things happen. But wouldn't it have been nice if the house computer said, by the way, the toilet on the second floor, yeah, it's leaking, you need to have that repaired. Or, yeah, those gutters haven't been cleaned in 3 years. So, that type of information helps us to be smarter and be more productive, and also save costs. Because what we want to stop is downtime. Or when you walk into a store and you're trying to find your favorite Alaga syrup. I love Alaga syrup. How many of you know about Alaga syrup? See, my mother's from Georgia. Alaga syrup with some biscuits, oh man. But trying to find it, it's tough. But what if I was able to take my phone and say, hey, here's my grocery list. Tell me where these items are in the store, and if you have them or not, and are they on sale? That's the Internet of Things, helping us to be more efficient and have more time for our families. So with blockchain is able to identify any information, whether it's a sentence, whether it's a paragraph, whether it's an audio file. My nephew is an artist, Darrell Nelson, and he's a world famous artist. And unfortunately, sometimes people steal his stuff or they copy his stuff. And so with blockchain, and I'm talking to him about this now, over the last couple of weeks I had this conversation with him. I said, you need to consider how to encrypt anything that you post with blockchain. Because if someone downloads it, with blockchain you'll know who downloaded it and where they downloaded it. Because every item within blockchain, within this block, is identifiable. So when you think about copyright for publishers, so anybody heard of Sci-Hub? Okay, Sci-Hub.
We need a glossary.
Okay, sorry about that. So, okay, you guys heard of Napster, right?
Yeah.
So this Russian woman did the Napster of scholarly publishing. She stole all of the publishers' content, global publishers, right? And put it up on the web for free. And so the publishers are scratching their heads, how do you get this woman, because every time they get a lawsuit against her, they shut down a server, she starts up another server. But also, how do you identify the people who are enabling her by downloading their content? With blockchain, you're able to identify who downloaded it where. The sad part about it is that 60% of the use on Sci-Hub comes from American universities who have access to this content. You might ask, well, why are we going to Sci-Hub? Well, because their interface is a lot better. It's quicker. But with blockchain, it allows you to identify who's doing what. The other thing about blockchain is that you can see what's trending, what's not trending. You're able to do analysis. A lot of folks have heard about big data, but a lot of folks don't understand big data. But if someone gave you information that is going to help you to better perform in your business, that's big data. Because someone has looked at all of your data, well, if you reduce your inventory here, if you increase your advertising there, you'll be able to do better. But blockchain allows you to get down to the most minute factor to allow you to make better decisions. So real quick, I'm gonna wrap up like real quick, 30 seconds. Smart contracts, where people will be able to do business based upon the smart contract. When someone does what they say that they're going to do, you pay them with a token, and it's all about trust. We talked about music. This is very important, and the musical artists are going to love it because they're going to get paid more, because they won't have to worry about the funny book. Same thing with film and motion pictures. When you think about government, it's really going to explode government. Imagine, like yesterday, a particular congressman from New York that got indicted on giving inside information. Think about the relationships of government officials to lobbyists, to different companies, and being able to identify those relationships very quickly. With blockchain, we're able to do that. Because once you understand the relationship, you know exactly where the motivations are. So again, in summation, blockchain is a shared replicated ledger technology. It'll open up business networks by taking out costs, improving efficiencies, and increasing accessibility. Blockchain addresses exciting and topical set of business challenges across every industry. And of course, it's driven by some open source information such as Linux Foundation, Hyperledger, product development, open source, open standards, and shared ledger technology. Keep in mind that open source technology has been with us for some time now, and it's all built upon, again, trust. So I really want to thank everybody for your time this morning. I'm here all day, and I'm on the panel this afternoon, so I think we're having a very lively and fruitful discussion about it.